Thanks for joining me today, everybody, and welcome to Tropical Outlook on the 27th of September 2025. We are quite a lot to get through today, so let's start right now. We have two tropical systems active in the Atlantic Ocean, one of them being Humberto, which has rapidly intensified into a Category 4 hurricane over the last 24 hours, and we have brand new tropical depression number 9, sparking tropical storm warnings and watches across the Bahamas and Florida. Lots of complexity on where the system will go over the next few days, and of course, if it does get to tropical storm status, which is looking very likely, it will get the name Imelda. So first and foremost, let's look at major hurricane Humberto, already a Category 4 hurricane now with winds of 145 miles per hour, which is fascinating that it's really this powerful, considering 24 hours ago it's still barely a Category 1 hurricane. Minimum pressure down to 948 millibars, located at 22.1 degrees north, 60.2 degrees west, moving west-northwestward at 8 miles per hour. So it's officially our third major hurricane of the year after Irwin and Gabrielle. Luckily, it's not expected to produce any impact on land anytime soon, but Humberto could very well influence how tropical depression number 9, or what will be Imelda, how it moves across the next few days, and we will certainly analyze that later. And here's what we could expect for Humberto over the next 5 days. It's going to travel towards the northwest. We could see it becoming a Category 5 hurricane with winds up to 160 miles per hour. If you pay attention closely, you might notice the location of where Humberto is expected to reach that intensity is actually quite close to where Irwin actually became a Cat 5 hurricane, which just goes to show how much energy we have in that particular part of the Atlantic Ocean this year. But Cat 5 status perhaps won't last too long, because by Monday it's expected to be back down to a Cat 4 hurricane, and then it will gradually follow the steering of the high pressure area, takes it away towards the northeast, and we could see some impacts to Bermuda if it does get close enough. But considering Humberto is relatively small, there is still uncertainties out there of how big the impacts will be for Bermuda, or whether will there be any impact at all. And then once we get to the 120-hour mark, it's expected to turn post-tropical, and then it will keep moving towards the northeast. So this is Humberto right now, looking very impressive on the satellite imagery, very dense and compact in the core shown here, and of course it also have a round, divine and clear eye in the middle, surrounded by lots of deep convection. It also has good outer flow as well, cloud dot temperature remaining as low as negative 80 degrees around the eye in the inner core, and the eye temperature already up to 15 degrees at the time of recording. Still slightly elongated in terms of the wind field. I don't think on the western side the tropical storm and hurricane force will expand as far as the eastern side, but in general it's still very impressive looking. There really isn't too much uncertainty surrounding Humberto's track. The general consensus is for it to travel towards the northwest up until Monday or Tuesday, and then it will make a gentle turn, a big curve towards the northeast. Some models expect it to pass quite close to Bermuda, some doesn't, and then it will move into the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean whilst transitioning into the next tropical cyclone. So let's shift the focus to brand new tropical depression number 9, which is now located just off the northern coast of Cuba, making its way towards the Bahamas. Has winds of 35 miles per hour, pressure down to 1005 millibars, located at 22.0 degrees north, 75.9 degrees west, moving northwestward only at 8 miles per hour. And it's very slow, by the way, which is why it adds more complexity on where it moves, and we will analyze that later. Now, because the system didn't move towards the north as much as we have anticipated over the last 24 hours, there is now more uncertainty about where the system will eventually end up at, because there's a factor of Hurricane Humberto which could very well influence how tropical depression number 9 moves, because it will get pretty close to each other over next week. Now, of course, we do have tropical storm warnings issued for the majority of the Bahamas, mainly in the central and northern parts of it. We also have tropical storm watches issued for the eastern coast of Florida. I don't rule out the chance of that those warnings extending to different parts of Florida, or even up to the other East Coast states, including Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina soon. So that you need to check out your local authorities or the National Hurricane Center's latest information. So this is the latest cone forecast. By tomorrow, it's expected to reach tropical storm status over the skies of the Bahamas. It will very likely get the name Imelda, by the way, as I have mentioned earlier, and then it will continue to intensify pretty quickly as well due to the warm ocean temperature around the Bahamas. After that, it will move across that region, then it will reach category 1 hurricane status by the 72-hour mark. I think that is around Tuesday. And then this is where it will get complicated. Just look at how big the cone of uncertainty get, and this forecast is going to stall in the ocean just to the southeast of Georgia and South Carolina, and then it will sort of change its direction towards the east. As you can see on the 120-hour mark, it slightly moves away from land back into the mid-Atlantic Ocean. So what is causing this relatively strange prediction? So let's look at the GFS forecast first. Over the next 3 days, the track is going to be steady towards the northwest. Could see some tropical storm force wind by the east coast of Florida, by the way, because it's going to pass quite close to that area. But look at Humberto catching up here on the eastern side. That's going to influence what will already be Imelda's track, and it's going to outcompete all the other steering factors and essentially controls and pull Imelda away from the land back into the ocean. That is called the Fujiwara effect. But on this case, Humberto is likely the only affecting factor because it's a much more powerful tropical cyclone, so it's essentially going to take control of the steering. And then you can see after a while of stalling, Imelda is going to rapidly move towards the east following Humberto's footsteps. So in this one, it's not going to make landfall in the US unlike the previous forecast, but that also does not mean the weather will be fine just because of that. According to this forecast, we could still see some tropical storm force wind affecting the coastal area of Georgia and the Carolinas. And if we switch it up to the European model impact, the impact gets even bigger because they expect Imelda, what will be Imelda, to get very close to the east coast, much closer than the GFS before it stalls. Which means that tropical storm force wind is going to affect a much broader area. And look at this, nearly the entirety of South Carolina covering that, parts of Georgia extending up to North Carolina. They even expect hurricane force wind to just be brushing off the coastline of South Carolina. So I want to remind you all that if Imelda does get too close before it stalls, it might create a scenario worse than it actually making landfall, because it's going to be affecting land for a longer period of time. The wind, the storm surge, rainfall, all of that will be out there for a long time, and it's not going to weaken as much as well, at least not significantly, because it will stay out in the ocean and avoid clashes with mountainous land terrain. And we hopefully hope Imelda stops and soars further away from land and then moves towards the east away. That would be the best case scenario, but unfortunately I can't really tell you what exactly will happen to this system because there is just too many factors affecting it. So we will be watching the system closely for the next few days, and you can also check out obviously the latest National Hurricane Center advisories. So this is the combination of what the computer models are expecting right now. A very good agreement on the track for the first 3 days, and as soon as we get to the 72 hours mark, the divergence starts showing up significantly. Good thing is, majority of them do expect what will be Imelda to make a turn towards the east without making landfall to the east coast, and in addition, even better is that they also not expected to get too close to land before stalling. So the worst case scenario seems to not be happening according to these computer models. We do have still around 2 models expecting a landfall at South Carolina, but they are in the minority for now. Google DeepMind also showing a pretty similar image here. They do have some more of a 50-50 split of making landfall or the east coast or turning towards the east. Some of the members expecting some crazy track prediction like looping inland then coming back out in the ocean, which just reflects how difficult it is to predict this system's track right now. Computer models are generally expecting a peak intensity as a low-end Category 1 hurricane, few of them expecting a strong tropical storm. In general, the peak is likely to come around Tuesday according to these forecasts. Here's what it looks like right now. The center of the storm gradually more and more visible. It's pretty obvious now that it's located just to the north of Cuba, throwing up some decent convection around, and we are going to see more of that as it moves further away from the large islands of Cuba and the Hispaniola, and also benefited by the warm sea surface temperature. More and more those thunderstorms is going to develop. Some of them clouds also now moving into the Bahamas, starting to bring showers and perhaps tropical storm condition very soon as it develops quickly over the next few days, or even next 24 hours. We could already see that tropical storm force wind in that area. Wind shear is still going to be the limiting factor for what will be Imelda, up to 30 knots above the skies of Bahamas. We could see an elongated structure for the first bit of its lifespan, and in terms of Humberto, very low wind shear, only around 5 knots, which is conducive for its intensification. So it's really likely to get to Cat 5 hurricane status now because of also the sea surface temperature here up to 29 degrees around Humberto, favourable for its intensification. As for depression number 9, or what will be Imelda, of course very favourable as well, up to 30 degrees. So both of these systems condition looking conducive for them to further intensify. In the Atlantic Ocean, next name on the list is Imelda. We could see that name being used very soon. We also have Jerry, Karen and Lorenzo after that. So this is for Tropical Outlook today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon.